Welcome to the first of what I hope are many audio-only podcasts with me, Zen Watercooler, and welcome. I get comments from time to time on the YouTube channels, and I've got two YouTube channels. One is called Zen Watercooler, and the other is called Crafty Stacks. Check them out on YouTube, like, subscribe, love me, hug me, and think of me often. And, it's funny, in the YouTube world, everything is about this algorithm. I'm supposed to upload, hilarious videos, entertaining videos with no downtime. It's quick cuts, and it's supposed to keep people's attention span, and it's all about the algorithm. So I'm trying something new here that the algorithm may absolutely hate. And to be honest with you, I don't really care. And this is not me trying to be too cool for school, but rather the whole mission of my channels is to try to provide value for you, because I see you as the client, even though I can't literally see you. It's not like there's some microchip that allows me to see into your universe. That would be kind of creepy. So, what we're trying to do here with the whole YouTube idea is to provide value for clients. That's the way I personally look at this. So the idea with this podcast that I'm trying here, and it's a true audio podcast, is, it's based on feedback that I get from time to time. I get all sorts of comments and emails, and, I have a Facebook page where people comment on there. And one of the comments that I've gotten is that I've got a relatively decent voice. It's not like nails on a chalkboard, hopefully. And so people will listen to me and listen to the videos while they work on their print on demand. They'll just have me running in the background. And at first I thought that was like, oh my goodness, the whole point of YouTube is to, furiously watch my videos, and, your loved ones are trying to hug you and you're pushing them off saying, no, I'm watching a YouTube video by Zen Watercooler. Lock yourself in a panic room and watch all my videos. And what I've come to learn is, sometimes people just want to listen to some advice, and they don't necessarily need to be furiously watching a video. So it's in that spirit that I want to present maybe a bit more of a laid back vibe. I've got some speaking notes here that I'll be talking about, but I'm certainly not worried about the occasional stutter or stammer, or God forbid, a couple silence of, or a couple sentences that are maybe not perfect, or a couple seconds of white noise, where you go, oh my goodness, he made a mistake. He's a human being. So, I'm not going to be heavily editing this. Obviously, if I get way off track, or if the police come knock at my door and drag me away half through the podcast, maybe I'll edit that part out. But otherwise, this is just going to be me talking to you about some, in this case, in this episode, some pros and cons of each print-on-demand platform. And we're going to start off, this first one's going to be Redbubble. So I'd like to make a whole series of these. I'd love to get your feedback. And again, I want to point out, I know this is not going to be for everyone. So if some of you are listening to this going, well, this is ridiculous, there's nothing to watch. Hey, I totally get it. But, if you're going for a walk, if you're washing your dog, if you're just sitting there by the fireplace and you'd like to listen to something. I even got a couple comments where a couple people said that they listen to me when they go to sleep at night. And I thought, or at least they're sleeping at night. I don't know. I'm guessing. Maybe they're sleeping during the day. But if I'm putting you to sleep, please do not listen to this while you're operating heavy machinery, or if you're jumping out of an airplane. I want to make sure that, of course, safety first. Okay, so we're going to jump into this podcast here, and it's going to be about the pros and the cons of Redbubble in this episode. So Redbubble, to me, represents one of the greatest print-on-demand platforms out there. I want to say that right at the start. So if you're a beginner, that's the number one pro. If you're a beginner, Redbubble to me is great. Now, I've mentioned in the past that you can set up more than one Redbubble shop. So if you're not a beginner and you're saying, well, I'd like to have 2,000 designs, 3,000 designs, 5,000 designs, I would recommend having multiple stores. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later in the podcast, but generally speaking, the reason is safety. And I'll get into that in a bit more detail. So if you're brand new and you're wondering how to start with print on demand, I would highly recommend checking out Redbubble first. Here are the pros on Redbubble. Redbubble is really easy for a beginner. And what I mean by that is it's an easy interface. You just can upload an easy text design that you can create in Photoshop or Affinity Photo, or Inkscape even. Inkscape is free, by the way. And Inkscape is just a vectorizing tool, which I love and use quite often. That's the other thing I wanted to point out is I only talk about things that I actually do. So it's not like I research something and then I do a video about it and I'm like, talking about how great it is. I actually have to use it, enjoy it, recommend it, and then I will do videos about it. So I do use Redbubble. I upload to Redbubble once a week probably. I'm not into this everyday thing. I try to have a life, especially during the summer. Maybe during the winter I might upload a bit more. But if you're a beginner, Redbubble to me represents the greatest way. There's really no barrier to entry. You need basically a PayPal account and you need an email address. And I guess you need enough fingers that you can type on a keyboard or work a mouse to create some easy designs. So I want to point out the reason people buy on a site like Redbubble, and this I think gets missed, so this is why I wanted to mention this. The reason that people buy on a site like Redbubble is because they can't buy the design in the store. Okay, now that's a big deal. And I think this gets overlooked a lot because what happens is you go onto Redbubble and you start searching for designs because you're trying to sell stuff, so you're looking for niches, and you find so many designs that are the exact same as what's sold in a Walmart or a Gap. And it's like, well, that's not like, why wouldn't you just go there? They offer free shipping often online, or down in the United States. I live in Canada, so I travel down to the United States once or twice a year. And like if you go to a store called Target, it is unbelievable. Like it's like a mecca for a print-on-demand person because you can find T-shirts for like $8 US that are professionally screen printed, and they're all licensed, by the way. So like you can't compete. I can't compete with a place like Target or Walmart. So I purposely don't create designs that are the same as Target or Walmart. What I do instead is I look for niches that are really, really niched down. So a niche is just a slice, right? So imagine something you enjoy. Let's say, I really like cats, for example. Okay. Well, if you go into Walmart, you're going to find a ton of cat designs. I love my cat, picture of a cat with your headphones on, a cat with a ninja outfit. Like there's all sorts of cat designs. So what you want to do is find something else in addition to the cat design. So it would be like cats plus coffee, cats plus Ireland, cats plus Sweden, cats plus Norway. Detect the trend there, right? There's 200 something countries and provinces and territories and states and cities. So you could have cats plus wherever you're from. That's just an example, right? So Redbubble, to me personally, represents a great opportunity to sell designs that you can't find in the store. Another type of design that I'm really into is retro comic book covers. I just love them. And I wouldn't say I collect them, but whenever I make print-on-demand stuff for myself, it's almost always going to be a retro comic book cover. So that means old science fiction covers, old romance covers. And I don't just upload the cover. What I do is I remove some of the background. I'll put like retro-y designs in the background. I'll redo the text on some of them. It's kind of a hobby of mine. So that's another idea, just where you can't really go into like Walmart and buy like a 1940s, World War II cover. Like that's really rare, right? And so to me, like that's a niche. Now it's not a huge niche. And what happens is people listen to this and they'll, shoot me a comment and they'll say, but nobody's buying that. And it's like, well, they're not buying it in the sense that they're lining up around Walmart on a Black Friday to purchase that design. No, I agree. It's not going to happen. But what will happen is because there's virtually no competition, that if somebody's looking for a Ireland, design that has cats attached to it, or an Ireland dog design, even more niche, an Ireland German Shepherd design, like that's so niche that when somebody does find it, they'll often buy it, or they'll often at least consider buying it if the design is high quality enough. And so I think that's something to consider when you're looking at Redbubble, is this idea of niching down. I want to point out another pro with Redbubble is that there's just a ton of products available. Redbubble, when we think of Redbubble, at least for me, I think of t-shirts. Although, to be honest, when I look at the analytics in Redbubble, most of my designs that sell are stickers. And then there's other stuff as well, mugs, canvas prints, water bottles, and they're always expanding. Redbubble is always expanding their product catalog to include things like cat mats and dog bandanas. It's a really neat, how they're continually growing. So that to me is great as well, because it represents growth, which I think is really important. People are buying more and more stuff online. So I am a believer in print on demand in general. I do use print on demand in general, and I do sell regularly on Redbubble. I think the search engine optimization for Redbubble is great. That's another positive. Redbubble has what they call SEO, and that's search engine optimization. Now, as soon as I say SEO, people's eyes roll in the back of their head and they think that's boring IT guy and computer geeky talk. So all I'm going to mention about SEO is go into Google at some point and just type in, funny cat t-shirt or, Ireland shamrock t-shirt, like just whatever. Pick a search term at random. It doesn't matter. And just see what comes up. That's how I actually search for niches a lot of the time. So I get comments once in a while about sites that I've never heard of that sell t-shirts, and they'll say, hey, Zen, should I upload 80,000 designs to blah, blah, blah website because I could sell a bunch of t-shirts? And it's like, well, I've never heard of this company before. And so I just go onto Google and I search for the company, and the name comes up and they have a marketplace. But that's not what I really care about. What I care about instead is, what is a consumer actually going to search for? So a consumer is going to go into Google and they're going to type funny retirement t-shirt. That's it. And then they're going to hit search. They're not going to type in the name of the weird random website that the person sent me the link to. They're going to just search for a shirt. So when that comes up, what are the results? Now, most of the time it'll be Etsy, TeePublic, and Redbubble. They're right near the top all the time on a lot of these search terms, at least that I'm searching for. Now, I'm based in North America. Maybe it's different if you live on, another continent. I don't know. But for myself in Canada, the SEO for Redbubble is fantastic. I will also say too, the margins are pretty decent on Redbubble. If you have a 20% markup, for example, you can make $3 on a t-shirt, $4 on a t-shirt. Yeah, stickers, some people have talked about having 100% markup on stickers. I personally don't. I have 20% markup just on everything. I'm too lazy actually to change the margins. This is a dirty little secret. You'd think I'm spending hours and hours a day tweaking every single design and researching how the algorithms work. I actually don't. I have everything standardized to 20%. And what that means is if I sell a sticker, it's going to give me 27 cents. Yahoo, right? Nobody cares. But what happens is that when you make a sale, your design moves up the ladder in the algorithm for all the products. So if you're searching for funny rabbit t-shirt and you've sold a bunch of funny rabbit stickers, it's going to appear higher in the search. Now, again, that's my opinion. I'm not saying I work for Redbubble. I don't have some special briefcase with all the specs on how Redbubble's website works. But for me, that's what I found has happened. I've seen this repeatedly happen, where I've uploaded a really good design, a really popular design on another website. Maybe I'm selling something on merch and it's selling really well. So I upload that same design onto Redbubble. But it's a really competitive niche. So, there's 400,000 similar designs. So I upload it just to make sure that I own the copyright, to it on as far as Redbubble is concerned. But I find that it sells. It'll start selling a sticker, another sticker, and then it moves up in the algorithm, and all of a sudden it's sitting on the first page of 400,000 designs. Well, how does that happen? Because I've only been selling stickers. And then all of a sudden I sell a shower curtain, water bottle. Canvas print is like $14, Canadian. That's pretty good. It's like $10 US. So I definitely believe in the SEO on Redbubble, and I definitely believe in the margins on Redbubble. So I think Redbubble can be a great tool for beginners. There's really no barrier to entry. Now, the trick with Redbubble is that you do need to sell, or at least list, you need to list a lot of designs. Okay, so we're going to get into the cons now on Redbubble. And one of the cons people say is, well, I need to list a lot of designs. But to me, that's not necessarily a con. So I just wanted to mention that as kind of in between here, in between the pros and the cons. Yes, you need to list a lot of designs. So what I would encourage you to think about in terms of print on demand in general, and this applies to Redbubble, but just in print on demand in general, if you're doing print on demand solely to make money, you're not going to enjoy it very much. It's like going to be a regular job. And if the idea is that you need to make money, if you live in a country where $100 a month is a lot of money, then great. I salute you. And it's just, I acknowledge that it's not going to be an easy, fun time. But if you're doing Redbubble because, say, you're a retiree or you're a stay-at-home parent or you're just looking for a bit of extra money, maybe you're a university or college student, maybe you're in high school and you just want to make a couple extra dollars, this is a fun and easy way to do it. You can sit in your pajamas, you can put on some music, and you can upload designs. And it's fun if you find this sort of thing fun. So I don't want to tell you it's fun if it's not fun. I personally find it fun. I'll be watching a TV show or a movie. I'll see somebody wearing a cool looking t-shirt. I'll do a quick search to see if it's trademarked. Usually it's not. And then I will make a similar design and I'll upload it. Now look, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to make a sale right away. It's going to sit there for perhaps weeks, months, maybe even years. And then all of a sudden, I'll get an email that I've made a sale. So the idea with Redbubble in general is that you're creating a library of content that you own that sits online forever. It's kind of like a digital farm. So imagine, for example, you have a farm. Well, a farm might be 2 acres or 3 acres or 100 acres. It might be 5,000 acres. Well, you're farming that land, right? But now if you imagine a digital farm with all your products being sort of little seeds in the ground, well, there's really no limit to how big the farm can be. You can have 1,000 designs. You can have 10,000 designs. There's nothing stopping you. So I want to talk about the cons on Redbubble, and then I'm going to mention that safety aspect here near the end as well. So the cons of Redbubble is that it's the exact same as the Pro. There's no barrier for entry. And what I mean by that is that anybody with any graphical skill can upload a ton of designs onto Redbubble and thus compete with your designs. So I'd say that's a con because it is highly competitive. There's no barrier for entry. So just be aware that you always need to be at least aware that your piece of the pie on Redbubble is shrinking because there's more people uploading designs than you can possibly keep up with. So if you Google something, like I've had this happen in the past where I found a niche, I found a trend that was new. And usually, it'd be around politics or some sort of news, some sort of event that's happened that's time-based. It's not just an evergreen, what they call an evergreen niche. An evergreen niche is like Christmas. Christmas is going to happen every year unless a meteorite hits the earth. So, Christmas comes around all the time. And so if you make Christmas designs, they can just sit there forever. And you know that every year you may make a few sales based on your Christmas niche. But what if you have something that happens in the news, right? It could be a phrase, or it could be based around a politician that's in the news at that time. And so if you make designs around an election or around some sort of news, you're going to find that if you start, researching this on Redbubble, you may find that there's hardly any competition. So a great example would be like a few years ago, Kamala Harris, who's the vice president of the United States at the time of this recording. If this sits in a time capsule and someone's listening to this 200 years from now, greetings from the 21st century. So, Kamala Harris was the vice president or is the vice president of the United States. So when I first started this niche, there was like 14 designs around Kamala Harris. And it was like, well, I've never heard of this person. I didn't know who they were. Didn't really care because I'm just uploading for a bunch of politicians. So there's 14 designs. Well, now there's like way more than that. There's like tens of thousands of designs around Kamala Harris because, she's the vice president. So it makes sense, right? Who's the next vice president going to be? Who's the next vice president 8 years from now? Interesting. We don't know that information, right? Somebody might come out of the fog as a true blue candidate, and all of a sudden, that's a niche and a trend that's going to grow. So my point is, the niches that you research are always going to be getting more designs. Redbubble does not go through and regularly pull designs that don't sell. They just sit there forever. Now, they will pull designs that are trademarked or copyright infringed, but Redbubble doesn't just pull designs at random that don't sell. So you need a lot of designs. That is a quote-unquote con of Redbubble. And another con is that, you're competing with people that are graphic designers. I'm not going to puff my chest out and say that I'm the world's greatest person at Photoshop, but I feel like I'm pretty good at it. I've been using Photoshop for about 20 years, been using Affinity Photo for about 2 years, and I've been using Inkscape for about 3 years. And I also have a bunch of online tools that I can use as well. So I regularly get requests from friends and family that say, hey, can you make a t-shirt that says blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I can make that. I had a request recently for a family member who just turned 80, and there was a big surprise party for them. And so I made a t-shirt for the 80th birthday, specifically for this person. It was the right colors, it was the right fonts, had some funny sayings on there. It was a big hit. But I made it exactly the way they wanted because I have that level of skill that perhaps not everybody has on a Photoshop or on an Affinity Photo. And look, there's people out there that have way more skill than I do. So I don't claim to be the world's greatest at it. My point is, you should be good enough with these graphic design software, solutions that you can compete at least in some sort of niche. So what I would recommend you do to overcome this con is find out what you're good at. And I'll just use me as an example. I'm very good at text designs, and I'm very good at silhouette designs. And what I mean by that, when I say I'm good at it, is I can make it look in such a way that it looks good on a t-shirt. I can make subtle designs, distressed designs, and I can make a lot of retro-looking designs. I've got a library of royalty-free utilities that I can use to make retro designs look really good on a t-shirt or on a print. I also think that, another con of Redbubble is that you need to actually sell things that people are actually looking for. And I'm going to mention this as a con because what I think we all are maybe guilty of is thinking that we want to have a store and a brand where people are going to hunt us down and say, I want to buy from Zen Watercooler store. So Zen Watercooler's got a bunch of funny cat designs because he really likes making funny cat designs, but I'm going to buy that design. And I see this a lot on Redbubble, actually. I see designs that are just really run-of-the-mill, like their original artwork that people have made. So I'm not putting down them as an artist, but what I'm saying is nobody's searching for it. So it's like a random Jackson Pollock painting, it's a bunch of squiggles. And then they've literally signed the artwork down on the right-hand side, but they've never heard of them. And so it's possible that someone's going to buy this artwork. It's totally possible. I'm not trying to put anyone's dream down. I'm not trying to, put a fire, set somebody's dreams on fire. What I'm saying is, chances are, if you upload 5,000 designs that are niche heavy that people are actually searching for, or you upload 5,000 designs of your own original artwork of random stuff, chances are you're going to sell the first one more. That people are searching for funny gag gifts on Redbubble. They're looking for things associated with things like bridal showers or, team groom, team bride, world's greatest farter instead of world's greatest father, funny sayings and slogans, looking for a lot of niche things around. I know this sounds weird, but it's like if someone has a disease or if someone has an illness, well, there's like a lot of diseases and a lot of illnesses out there, right? And so you're not going to go to Walmart and buy, I support someone with multiple sclerosis shirt. It's just not going to happen, right? Nothing against Walmart, but that's not going to be a huge seller. So they're going to be very niche items on Redbubble. Some of them are rude, really rude. Like if you ever feel salty one day, just go into Redbubble and type in the F word, type in the C word, just type in the most offensive thing you can think of. Something's going to come up. It's like, whoa, hello. So that can be a really, eye-opening experience. A lot of designs that I sell are rude and they're anti something else, A-I-A-N-T-I, not like my auntie and my uncle. I'm saying they're against something. It's anti, whatever. And so, I know that this is a touchy subject for people because they don't necessarily want to sit there in the evening and type out a bunch of designs where they're putting down other things, other people like politicians or other causes or, funny designs that are rude and offensive. And I struggle with this myself at times too, right? So the way I get through that for myself, and I'm not saying you should do this, by the way, I'm just saying if you're interested in making money and if you're interested in uploading designs, you need to figure out what you're okay with. Now, look, I'm not, trying to make the world a worse place. The way I look at it is that I'm providing value for someone. And I happen to have the belief, and wouldn't call it a political belief, but I would call it a belief just in general, that who am I to say to someone else that they shouldn't be allowed to have that design? Now, look, obviously, if it's racist or sexist or homophobic or, a hate crime, obviously, I'm not talking about designs like that at all. But I'm talking about like a funny design about somebody's private parts. And you're like, okay, I wouldn't personally wear that t-shirt. And I'll say for myself, I wouldn't personally wear that t-shirt. I wouldn't wear a t-shirt that says, have you tried the sausage with a big arrow pointing down to my groin? Like, that's not something that I'm personally comfortable wearing out in public at the grocery store. Now, that's for me. But I've seen that design, and I have to admit, it's made me chuckle inside where I've went, wow, there is a person who not only likes that design, they liked it enough that they actually bought it somewhere. So it's like, Now, they're a human being. They're owed dignity and respect. So who am I to say that they shouldn't be allowed to buy that? There's no swear words on it. It's not offensive in the sense that they're putting down a race or a sex or a creed. They're saying, hey, I've got private parts, look at them. I mean, it's like an 8-year-old would find that funny, right? So it's like, hey, good for them, right? Live and let live. That's what I say. So in my mind, that's what I try to go after on Redbubble a lot of the time. And yes, I make funny cat designs and funny dog designs like every other person does. But I find that the ones that sell are the really rude ones, the really niche ones. So you need to sell things on Redbubble that people are actually looking for. And this is really tough. It's a big mind shift because I think a lot of people on Redbubble, when they're selling on Redbubble, they don't really want to sell what people want to buy. They want to sell what they want to sell. So you think about, things that you love in your life, and you probably think, well, that's what I'd like to make designs about. Great, you can totally do that, but just expect that they're not going to sell as well as somebody who's, selling bridal shower designs. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I find joy out of creating designs, and I find joy out of creating designs that I think will sell. And they're not always the same thing. One is what I call a push mentality, me pushing my loves into the world. And the other one is what I call a pull mentality. It's me pulling out of the world things that will sell. Maybe I'm watching a TV show, I'm going onto Google Trends, I'm pulling information out, and I'm finding what sells, and I'll create designs based on that. I do find a happy medium, for example. I like to do inspirational quotes or inspirational designs, and I find that is adding something positive into the world. But look, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to pretend I'm something I'm not. I like funny, rude designs as well. I do create them, and they do sell. And so, if you're looking for a niche idea, I would say turn off the part of your brain that is dignified and just slum it for an hour. Go onto Redbubble and just look up the most filthy things you can find and just see what comes up. And if something makes you laugh, then maybe consider making some of those as well, if that's important to you. So as promised, I wanted to mention the safety feature on Redbubble that I highly recommend, and that's having multiple stores. So perhaps the biggest downside, the biggest con to Redbubble, and really any print-on-demand site in general, except for your own website. But if you're using a print-on-demand website like Redbubble, TeePublic, Displate, Merch by Amazon, the biggest con is that they can delete your account. You're basically playing in their sandbox, and you're playing by their rules. And so what that means is if you make Redbubble angry, if you make the Redbubble robot angry, your account can get a strike on it, or your account can get banned. And I see this happen time and time again. And it happens to me too. And so, again, I'm not trying to puff my chest out and say that I'm the world's greatest print-on-demand guru. But if it's happening to me, and I've got 2 YouTube channels dedicated to graphic design and copyright and trademark infringing, policies, and I'm getting strikes, then it's like, well, what hope does a new person have, right? So I wanted to talk a little bit about this. The general idea here is that there is no guarantee that you can upload designs and not have them be infringing. You can do all the research in the world. You can own the design. You can make the design yourself, and it's not trademark infringing at all, in your opinion. It doesn't really matter. You're still rolling the dice every time you upload a design. So I'll just give you a quick example. I created a design that was using only public domain assets and had nothing to do with superheroes. Nothing. But one of the keywords that I used was the word Marvel. Now, Marvel has become so synonymous with Marvel Comics that something in the print-on-demand, robot sphere has triggered that to be considered a strike. Because I'm guessing Marvel's gone to these print-on-demand companies. I have no evidence of this, by the way, but I've imagined these print-on-demand companies have received letters from Marvel's legal staff saying, don't upload any Spider-Man designs, don't upload any Batman designs, DC Comics, Marvel Comics, that kind of thing. So they've got keywords that if you use them, it makes the robots angry. Another common misconception, I'm going to add to this really quickly, is that people think that there's like one or two interns sitting there monitoring Redbubble. So I'll get comments like, I don't understand why Redbubble is not pulling these obvious infringing designs, because they've got Captain America, for example, set up and it's obviously infringing. But it's not obvious because it's not run by human beings. There are so many designs uploaded every minute, every hour, every day, every year to Redbubble that no human being can possibly review them all. If you Google New York, for example, you're going to get hundreds of thousands of designs. If you Google Trump, if you go into Redbubble and you search for Trump, you're going to get hundreds of thousands of designs. Well, no one human being can monitor all of them and all the keywords. So what happens instead is Redbubble just says, look, if somebody sends us a complaint and they say that they're the owner of the trademark or the copyright, we're going to pull the design down. We're not getting involved, just instantly. And it's not great for the seller because that means that anybody can throw their hands up and say, hey, I'm a victim of trademark infringement, and Redbubble will immediately pull the design down and then make you prove that you're not infringing on that design. So this has happened to me time and time again. I've used old war propaganda posters, for example. I've rejigged them to make them my own. I've removed backgrounds. I've added in new text. And somebody somewhere says it's an infringing design. Well, it can't be. It's a public domain asset that I've completely changed. And I myself have created it. Yes, I've used a public domain asset, but I created a funny retirement poster based on a World War II propaganda poster. It has nothing to do with the original design. And I'll get a strike. So then I go back to Redbubble and I say, no, actually I own the original asset. Here's the link to the original asset. And I created it. Here's the original Photoshop file that I myself created. And Redbubble, more often than not, will say, oh, okay, we'll put the design back. We'll relist it for sale. So it takes a lot of work. So the reason I mention this as a con is that if you're getting success on Redbubble, and if you're selling a design a day or 2 designs a week, then you're going to run the risk that the more designs you upload, the more times you're rolling the dice, that the whole thing's going to come crashing down. And this is a dirty little secret that I don't think a lot of people really discuss very much because, look, it's in my best interest to tell you that everything is going to be amazing on Redbubble and you can upload one design and you can make $6,000 and for 5 minutes worth of work I made $32 billion. Well, it's all hogwash. It's not real. The reality is you're going to do a whole lot of work and you're going to make some sales once in a while. That's the reality of it. So if you enjoy uploading designs, and if you enjoy creating designs, and you like making some side money that can come in handy, then hey, print on demand can be a great hobby. But I'm certainly not quitting my full-time job to become a print on demand expert and spending 18 hours a day uploading designs thinking I'm going to somehow pay my mortgage. That's not going to happen. So what I would recommend as the quote-unquote workaround, in order to mitigate this huge downside, the potential of losing your entire store, what I would recommend you do is you open up multiple stores. Imagine, for example, that you wrote a bunch of books, if you're an author, and you wrote 20 novels, and your novels are all selling. And then all of a sudden one day, the stores that all decide to sell your novels, all of them all at the same time say, we're not selling your novels anymore. And it's like, whoa, well, now what do you do, right? It's the same thing with Twitter and Facebook and any sort of social media. If you make the Facebook gods angry, or if you make the Twitter gods angry, or even the YouTube gods angry, they will pull your account. They will completely destroy any sort of inventory that you've built up. So it's not just Redbubble that this happens to. It's any sort of social media, any sort of asset that you're building up on someone else's platform. So the biggest workaround that you can do is to sell directly to the consumer through your own website. That's the biggest one. Now, I'll talk about that in another video. There's pros and cons to that strategy as well, and some big pros and some big cons to that strategy. But in terms of Redbubble, the biggest workaround would be to have multiple stores. Now, how do you do that? Well, it's pretty simple. It is a bit time intensive. What it involves is setting up a second Redbubble account, and you set it up from scratch using a completely different email address. And then you set up your payment on a PayPal with a completely different email address. So I have like 8 PayPal addresses, for example, and I have like 8 Redbubble stores, and I'm building more all the time. So rather than have 8,000 designs in one store, I would rather have 1,000 designs in 8 stores. Now, Redbubble doesn't necessarily know or care that they all happen to be the same person. Because again, your payment details are completely different. They're different PayPal accounts. Now, you can see if you've ever worked with PayPal, this could be a little bit more work than just having one PayPal account. You're going to get 8 payments a month, and you're going to need to filter all of those into your bank. It's 8 times the amount of administrative overhead. But it could be worth it because it protects your store in the event that any one store on Redbubble gets completely destroyed. Now, I do want to point out, I've never had a Redbubble store be completely destroyed. They've never yanked my account completely. But I have had strikes on Redbubble, and none of them have been legitimate. So what I mean by that is I haven't accidentally uploaded a trademarked design, or I haven't on purpose uploaded a Spider-Man design and tried to fool it. I'm uploading public domain assets. I'm uploading text designs I myself have created. So it hasn't happened to me yet, but it could happen in the future at some point. I'm well aware of that. I could wake up one morning and check my iPad for my emails, and all of a sudden it says, "Sorry, Zen Watercooler, you're a bum. Your account's been completely destroyed." And it's like, okay, well, there's 1,000 designs now down the toilet. So I've got 7 other stores, though, that I can run with. This is an annoyance. This is a real life thing. I don't want to skirt around this issue. So if you're new to print on demand and you're worried about this, you are correct to be worried about this. And no one, I think, really talks about this a whole lot. So I'm trying to somehow shine a light on it to say, hey, yeah, this is a real issue. So how you mitigate it is to have multiple stores on Redbubble. Okay, so I hope you found this helpful. I'm going to call it there. This is about a half hour. If you found this helpful, I'd really love it if you gave it a thumbs up. And I'm not doing that to be thirsty in the algorithm. But what it does is it just gives me an idea if you do find this helpful, because I'd obviously love to make more of these. And, if you're out for a walk, or if you're, like I say, maybe you're driving your car or something, and you do find this sort of thing helpful, then that's great. I don't particularly care about how popular it is. What I do care is if you found it valuable. That means a lot to me. So thanks a lot for listening. And, I'm going to put this in a playlist called Zen Podcast. So if you're on YouTube and you're looking for these audio-only excursions, then you can go to that playlist. It'll be an audio-only playlist. Bye for now. Thanks a lot for watching or listening, everybody. And, I really just want to say thank you. Thank you for listening to this YouTube channel in general, and thank you for supporting the YouTube channel. I'm a big fan of providing value, and I'm really hoping that that's what happened here today. Okay, bye for now, everybody.